Hi, I'm Kieran. I'm the Early and Middle Career Researcher Development Manager at Coventry University, and this is my first ever vlog, and this is about the 10th take because, to be honest, I don't know quite what I'm doing and it feels slightly awkward talking to a camera. But here we go, I'll give it a go anyway. The reason I'm doing a vlog is just before the winter break I challenged people on the Research Communications Developmental programme to do a YouTube video about their work, their research. And as part of that I said that I would do one as well. And it's quite an interesting challenge. The reason I've challenged the researchers to do this is so they can experiment with how they can share their research, how they talk about their research easily and quickly online using either a laptop camera or a phone. And it was also prompted by Denise Brousseau's book, Ready to be a Thought Leader. And in it she says, true thought leaders have expertise, passion and a track record of changing the world. They become thought leaders when they rise above themselves by sharing their knowledge so that others can change the world too. And that sat with me for a while because this idea of sharing knowledge, of having an effect, I think is quite relevant in a 21st century research context, but also that idea of sharing our knowledge so people come to us, so we lead our discipline, so we do make a difference, is quite interesting. So I thought vlogs are going to be the challenge for the session. The session I did before Christmas I thought I'd focus on, so on a session on developing your academic profile or brand. And it was quite an interesting session in terms of the dialogue and discussion we had, particularly with the very idea of branding, which sounds corporate, coming from marketing terminology, and as academics we were uncomfortable with that term. However, as we went through the session, it's not a term you can get away with because we are thinking about our impression on people. When we create web profiles, documents, when we have pictures, we do think about what we're putting out there and putting forward. We are not simply neutral beings that share anything unedited. So we started to think about how we could think about the language and the research in marketing and how it might apply into an academic context. So we started from a very business viewpoint. That's better. And we started by looking at a video and training material by Laurie Thompson-Ross, CEO of Web Marketing Therapy, and she has an interesting training video on lynda.com. And she talks about personal branding, and she talks about ideas of authority, identity and personal style as being key to developing your personal brand. And we had some really interesting discussions in the room about what that means, what it means in the world of academia. We particularly latched onto the idea of what constitutes or designates authority. Who is authority? How is it presented? How do we present authority? But also, how is authority perceived? And this was quite key. What are the expectations and traditions within discipline and sectors about authority, having authority? Just bear with me 1 second. How authority is perceived is really key because it can actually exclude groups and different types of people. And so we really started to explore the idea of authority and the difficulties that brings. We also spoke about identity and style, what we wear and how we present ourselves, and talked about disciplinary performances. So how different disciplines or sub-disciplines might have a certain academic dress or a certain way of interacting. And again, how those performances are perceived by others and what is accepted, what is recognised, and then what is challenging those boundaries. So perhaps it might be more standard in business and management studies to wear a suit at a conference, where at arts and humanities it might be a shirt, tie, jacket combo that challenges the very nature of what fashion actually is. More seriously though, these do bring interesting points about that idea of authority, identity and style, and how we present ourselves, how we gain followers, and how we network and increase our field of influence. We then looked at how to become a key person of influence, drawing on some of the concepts in Dan Priestley's book. That idea that in our circles there are key people that are changing the field, the thought leaders, the people moving things on, and how we as researchers might want to take on that role, and how do we get there. And so I set a task where you had to think about what you enjoyed most about your research work, writing down the top 3. And then I asked to write down your top 3 things that you were good at, again, regarding your research work. And then the top 3 things that are most valued. So if I was to pay someone to come and speak to a room of people now, what would you offer? And after you've thought about those 3 things, so what you enjoy, what you're good at, and what is most valuable, I then asked you to think about who approaches you for those very things, who comes to you for advice. And what that helps you do is start to see how enjoyment, the talents and the value you have, and where you need to build your capacity, or where you can enhance other activities. So it starts to help you think about how you can be that person to generate change. We moved on then to thinking more specifically about social media and explored a few different platforms, but quite importantly, we weren't looking at how to use the platform, but how you can use a platform. We spoke about social media strategies and ways in which to use social media, asking questions such as, what's your aim? What will you do this year to expand your ideas using social media? How will you foster approachability on social media? What will you do to become more discoverable? We spoke about how your personal story can connect to your account. So if you think of perhaps a Twitter account, Facebook profile, LinkedIn, where it really only ever tells you about new publications, what we're really getting there is a CV. We're not getting any sense of that person. Do I want to work with that person? Could I work for that person? Could they be a collaborator on a research project? If there's no personal element, it can inhibit connections and improving your network. Then we spoke about, so what support's on offer? Who can advise you about certain things? And peers being quite key on how you can learn different ways in which to use social media tools, and to think about increasing your branding. We also spoke about role models and who's a good role model in this area, whose ideas could you follow, and have you ever spoke with them about it. So finally, as well as the challenge to make a YouTube video which puts your personal identity, your style right up to the forefront, I asked them to go away and think about their use of social media. And I drew on Mark Carrigan's book, Social Media for Academics, which is the recommended read this week. In it, he states, the challenge comes in knowing how to use social media in a way that's helpful and appropriate for you. Not all researchers should be on Twitter. Not all researchers should be on LinkedIn. It's working out how each of these platforms can support you to develop your network, develop your career, develop your contracts, develop your friendships. And social media can do all of those things. So I sent them away to go and reflect on that, and that's something we're going to talk back in the new year. So that's my vlog. Thank you for listening on academic identity and branding. I think it's quite a new field. There's lots written on branding and marketing. I haven't found much about how academics may brand themselves or create impressions. So I can see this being quite an interesting research area, and if anyone's interested in looking a research project around some of the ideas I've been talking about, do get in touch. I will hopefully be doing more of these, so see you next time.